Hi, Dr. Matthew Clark. Thank you for joining me. Just so everybody knows, I'm the field coordinator in South Carolina for the John Birch Society. And I wanted to make this video because I think more people need to know what's going on in South Carolina. This is a subject that's very dear to my heart. It's personhood. And for those that don't know, personhood is the effort to stop abortions altogether. And I know it's been a hot topic in New York. It's been a hot topic all over the United States.
Hmm.
And those of us in South Carolina are probably moving better along than any other area of the United States because and it's due to the leadership of personhood. And what we want to do is we want to stop abortions altogether. And that's why I have Dr. Matthew Clark on this Skype call with me. And that is to educate everybody on what's going on with personhood and what his organization, Personhood, is doing to hopefully stop abortions in South Carolina in the next few months. If enough South Carolinians came together to motivate state representatives and state senators to do this, we would really come a long way. And we already have the governor on our side. As Dr. Matthew Clark, you can go into detail on it. So if you
Yeah.
would, Dr. Clark, go ahead and go into detail on where personhood is today, where it's come from, because you've been working on this for a number of years, and what you hope to see in the next few months.
Sure. Well, Evan, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to come talk to you. It really means a lot that you reached out to me and that you want to try to help with this effort. The personhood movement really goes back to the Declaration of Independence, where our founders tell us in that document so clearly that we have unalienable rights given to us by God. And these unalienable rights are not determined by our legislators or our executives. These unalienable rights are given to us by God, and our government is to secure these rights. And so when government starts to get into the business of determining who gets rights and who doesn't get rights, then you're starting to talk about tyranny. And so it's ultimately this is a freedom issue. It's a good governance issue where we say that our rights do not come to us from our government. Our rights don't even come to us from the Constitution. Our rights come to us from God. And our Constitution, our founding documents acknowledge that. And those rights are not class specific. Those rights are for every single person. And so personhood simply seeks to take us back to the roots of the original intent. We are originalists in terms of relying on the United States Constitution as the bulwark of our freedoms. And we believe that the Constitution is being misinterpreted, has been misinterpreted, has been abused, has been misused, and we're trying to return to an accurate understanding, an accurate application of the United States Constitution and its amendments, particularly the 14th Amendment, which the pro-death crowd, the pro-abortion crowd, and the Roe v. Wade argument leaned on the 14th Amendment, which ironically absolutely prohibits abortion. I'll point your listeners to a recent Harvard Law Review article by Joshua Craddock when he was a student at Harvard Law School, and also he spoke while at Harvard Law School, and we can get you that video, where he provides an excellent overview of the original meaning of the 14th Amendment and how that 14th Amendment absolutely outlaws abortion in every case in our nation. And so we're just relying on our original documents. The Supreme Court was dead wrong when they ruled in the Roe v. Wade Roe v. Wade case. They were dead wrong when they ruled in Doe v. Bolton, and the subsequent lineage is all infected with that corrupted thinking. And the Supreme Court has overturned itself over 200 times in the history of the court. And we look to Dred Scott and we say, hey, the Supreme Court was dead wrong. We look to the separate but equal ruling that was dead wrong, that was eventually overturned. And we say today that we anticipate that Roe v. Wade will be overturned by the Supreme Court. Roe v. Wade will be nullified by states. Roe v. Wade will be ignored. It'll be overturned and or it will be ignored, and we will restore the right to life for every single human being in our state and other states. So that's kind of, I think, an overview of the philosophy of where we're coming from. uh, historically and legally.
How many years have you been working on this in South Carolina?
Well, the personhood effort has been underway in South Carolina for almost 2 decades now. It goes back to the human life, um, I think it was called the Human Life Amendment efforts earlier. And so it's almost 20 years of effort now to end abortion in South Carolina. I've been working on it personally now, if I remember correctly, since around 2016 when Richard Cash asked me to be a part of this effort and to help with this. And so the personhood effort goes back decades, me personally, for about since 2016. And Richard Cash founded Personhood South Carolina.
And Richard Cash is now a state senator, and he's got this as his top issue this legislative session.
He does.
And we're getting a lot of help from Representative Josiah Magnuson, who has this as his top issue as well.
Yes.
And we're not going to wait for Supreme Court justices to change the decision of Roe v. Wade. We are at the state level exercising our right. It's a duty to make sure that this unconstitutional decision is overturned at the state level. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is that we don't have to wait for Supreme Court justices to be switched around to where the ruling can be changed. We have the constitutional authority at the state level to go ahead and pass personhood and make sure the state of South Carolina and any other state that wants to do this, they can do this as well, and they can basically nullify Roe v. Wade at the state level.
It's so true. And people often scoff when they hear talk of nullification because they think of the war between the states. They think of, oh, that's a settled issue that doesn't happen anymore, that was solved in the past. And that's just an inaccurate understanding of history and current events. You look at what's going on with the sanctuary cities, that's a nullification effort by cities. And the Obama administration chose to allow those cities to nullify federal law. You look at Colorado, the marijuana effort in Colorado, that was a nullification of federal law. And again, the Obama administration chose to allow the state of Colorado to pass that law and bring it into effect, even though it was in direct contradiction to federal law at that time. Well, the difference in our case in Roe v. Wade is there's been no laws passed by the United States Congress requiring states to ignore the murder of babies. It was nothing but a Supreme Court ruling. So we have cities, we have states ignoring congressional actions. And what we're saying is we've got one branch of the federal government, the Supreme Court, and you look at Article 6 of the Constitution, and plus you look at the legislation that we put out, you see the final phrase, it is passed pursuant to the 10th Amendment. So in the legislation that we have put forward, it explicitly references the 10th Amendment. So yes, absolutely, personhood does not believe that it requires an action of the Supreme Court in order to end abortion in the state. Now, the elegance of personhood, though, is it does present a court challenge that could overturn, in the Supreme Court, could overturn Roe v. Wade. Mm-hmm. So it has there's a bifurcation there. It can either go through the courts and we can see it overturned in the courts for other states, or we can press our elected officials here in our state to say, look, you have a constitutional duty according to the United States Constitution and the South Carolina Constitution to defend innocent life and to provide justice for every single person within your jurisdiction. And that's what we're calling for in South Carolina.
What can South Carolinians do in the next few days to help with the personhood effort?
Well, you know, the movement is gaining steam over the last 3 years. It's definitely gaining steam. And I think, for example, the heartbeat bill that's being put forward this year, it's actually a pretty aggressive incremental bill. If you look at the statistics, according to DHEC, it will outlaw 60% of the abortions that occurred last year. So that's a pretty aggressive incremental step. And we believe that the wins provided by this end it now approach, personhood, has bolstered the incremental effort to cause them to take bigger and larger steps. And so we're happy. We see this as a movement that is gaining steam in South Carolina. You look at what's going on in New York. We believe that this movement there, they're aware that the winds are changing in our nation, and they're trying to put up a bulwark against outlawing abortion in their state by passing those wicked laws right now. We believe that's a response to this growing pressure in America to say, stop killing babies now. Every single one. Because personhood is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say in New York right now, let's say a woman is killed, or let's say she's beat up by her husband or boyfriend, and she loses her baby. Because of what New York is doing, that's totally going to change whether or not it's murder if a woman loses her baby that she's supposed to have in the next few weeks or the next few months. And that's, anyways, I think that's more people need to be aware of that. The more and more that we continue to make people, the people on the left, make people believe that what's inside a woman is not a baby, the less rights a woman is going to have if something were to happen to her baby in cases of an accident or being in an abusive relationship. And so I think that there alone will help people turn our direction in understanding how important it is to always point to the fact that a baby is a baby at the time of conception, and that baby is a person at that time, and in the court of law should always be valued as a person.
Absolutely. The embryological evidence that's become available since the Roe v. Wade case, the scientific advances that have taken place since then, there was ample evidence available at the time that a, a baby, a new person, existed at the moment of conception. We have even more evidence to that effect now, scientific evidence. So it is ridiculous for any educated human being in the 21st century to say that that is not a unique member of our species. At the moment of conception, with its own DNA, own unique DNA, and it's self-directed, it's internally directed, all it needs is nutrients. Just like you and me, we have to eat, we have to have protection to survive and to grow. No different for that baby inside the mom from the moment of conception. And so that's why the Personhood Act of South Carolina says that the right to life vests at fertilization. And this is from conception without exception. There's no class of baby inside the womb that should have their right to life removed. So what you'll hear people say, well, what about rape and incest, right? Well, my answer is that child inside the womb, that baby inside the womb, does that baby lose its rights because its father was a criminal? Of course not. Is it going to help that mom for her to go in and kill her baby? No, she hasn't done anything. She hasn't changed the trauma in her life. All she's done, studies have proven this over and over again, is she's brought more emotional trauma into her life by killing her baby. You see, God made us with a conscience. And when a human being kills another human being, especially when a mother participates in killing her own child, the guilt associated with that leads to increased suicide, increased depression, increased death by violence in her future. Women are damaged by this, and there's tons of data. This is new data that's come up since the Roe v. Wade case. There are thousands of testimonies from women who've had abortions testifying that abortion harmed them. This is new data. This is data that was not available to the original Roe v. Wade court. Abortion does not help women. It hurts women, not only emotionally, but also physically. You see increased cancer rates, increased miscarriage rate, increased infertility rates. So abortion hurts women, doesn't help women. And so we say, without exception, whether the baby, there's the baby that has the terminal illness, it's going to die at birth, right? Well, guess what? Do we kill human beings because they're going to die shortly? No, we do not do that. We support them, we love them, we take care of them. And you can hear story after story after story of women hearing babies.
That's my son in the background. I'm sorry, everybody. He's excited about going to school this morning.
That's good. Like I have a friend who recently gave birth to a child who had no brain. The child there was a malformation inside the womb. The child died at birth, and she carried that child all the way through the term. And they loved on that child. They loved that baby, and then they buried that baby together. And it was a healing event for her. It would have brought great trauma into her life, and of course would have been a violation of that child's rights to kill that baby.
Well, there needs to be more stories like that discussed by people to help understand that it's truly beneficial to go ahead and have a baby in situations like that. I am going to be in Columbia next Wednesday. At least I plan to be. So I'm going to urge all of the people that I can get a hold of the next few days in South Carolina to be there at the Personhood Day event.
We're excited. We're
And
excited. It's a big day.
and speaking of healing, going to the Personhood Day event is actually a lot of praying, and it is a day of healing for a lot of us who realize how much trouble we are in this state with the amount of abortions that are taking place right now. And so it is a moment of healing for all of us um, who are often being destroyed just due to the thought of what people are doing in our county or the county next door that has an abortion mill.
Yeah. Evan, I'll tell you, uh, taking this one level deeper, as a Christian, um, I understand that the Lord is present and active in our world. The scriptures tell us, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And when a nation turns its back on the Lord, that nation places itself in great jeopardy, in great jeopardy. That's the first thing. And I mean jeopardy for the judgment of God. That the Lord God not only turns us over to our sin and we have this passive judgment, but the Lord God brings active judgments into the lives of nations that turn their back on him. And we know that this is true from Scripture and from history. And so we are so thankful to the Lord that he's had mercy on us and he's given us an opportunity to cry out to him in spite of the blood of around 60 million babies that our nation has participated in murdering for these last 46 years. In spite of that, the Lord has not destroyed us. He has not wiped us off this land like we deserve. And so we're very thankful to God. And that's the first thing. Secondly, we know this is a spiritual battle, Evan. You look at what's going on in politics and all the political efforts that take place, and Personhood South Carolina knows that typical political efforts are going to fail. This is a spiritual battle with entrenched demonic forces of evil casting clouds of deception through the minds and hearts of individuals and elected officials in our state and in our nation. Evan, this is the reality of the situation. God, in his grace, has given us the tools of warfare. These are spiritual tools. These are spiritual tools where we cry out to God. We get on our face before God. We confess our sin to him, and we cry out to him for mercy. This is the spiritual battle that we must be involved in, Evan. This is the political path that we must engage. We look at Luke, where the Lord talks about prayer, and he uses an unjust judge as the example. And that widow who has no power, and she has an adversary, and she goes to the judge over and over and over and over and over again until the judge finally gives her righteous judgment. Well, the Lord tells us that he is a righteous judge. He's not like the unrighteous judge. And so we keep crying out to him. And that's the main thing that we're focusing on, Evan. We're focusing on building 46 powerful prayer teams throughout our state, in every single county, basically every single Senate district in our state, that are meeting on a monthly basis, coming together for the purpose of crying out to God for his mercy and asking him to end this evil in our state. And we know that if that's present, we have great hope to see things change, Evan.
So if people want to get involved in personhood, where do they go?
Well, you can go to our website, the personhood.sc website, and you can find out all the ways to get involved. You can go to our Facebook page and find out all the ways to get involved. We are constantly seeking district captains who will help coordinate these prayer efforts in each district, each Senate district, which of course has overlap with all the House districts. So we're constantly seeking district captains who want to lead through gathering people together for prayer and through gathering people together to contact their elected officials, and just build these local networks in each district so that every politician, whether they actually agree with us or not, would be contacted regularly and would understand that this is a force to deal with in their district. And that's our hope.
Well, please get involved, everybody. I'm going to go take my son to school, as a lot of you have heard him in the background. So, and thank you, Dr. Clark.
Have folks contact Representative McCoy. Don't forget to mention that.
Representative McCoy, who is in this James Island area of South Carolina, so near the Charleston area, especially if you live in that district where he's the House representative.
He's the House Judiciary.
Right, and when you're
yes, he's the House Judiciary.
Yes. He's the House Judiciary Chairman, and yeah, so we all need to contact him. Here's his cell phone number. He put this out on his Facebook Live video last video. It's 843-452-4666. 4722. Again, it's 843-452-4722. Thank you, Dr. Clark. I think our live stream may have, your internet connection may be down right now, or maybe a problem with mine, but we're going to go ahead and end this call. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And
Thanks, Evan.
please get involved, and we'll fight this good fight together. God
Yes, we will.
bless.
God bless.